Hey, welcome back, everybody. I guess the show is sober and getting soberer. Like,
well, I think that's the first time you've been sober in a week.
like 8 p.m. on a Saturday after an early football game.
Yes. Speaking of football games, how'd you like that cluster yesterday?
Oh,
yeah. We were talking about it a little bit
I thought
before.
that you were going to talk about the only football game that I cared about last week, which is the Iowa State game when my beloved Hawkeyes beat the lowly Cyclones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
Fantastic.
Last couple of minutes.
That was great.
Yeah. And I always root for Iowa State and Iowa in UNI. And for me, it was a great, exciting game. So, I'm sorry the Cyclones won in such a pitiful, or lost in such a pitiful fashion.
I'm not sorry at all. I loved it. I never want them to win anything.
Oh, really? Well,
never.
Well, you do know what the best sports school in Iowa is, don't you? Best sports school. One answer. Has three letters.
Well, not really.
UNI.
Not really.
Absolutely. Look at the budget they have and how much they're always in the upper wings. And
Division II, I mean, it's different.
Yeah, so what? But they're playing Division III, Division I teams.
They got
doing really well.
They got their butts handed to them by ISU the week before.
Yeah, but how many times has Iowa just barely escaped on a field goal?
They were good. They're not as good as they used to be.
Well, that's true, but that was only 2 years ago when they were excellent. Last year's rebuilding, this year's rebuilding.
Anyway, I have nothing to talk about. My football team is not very good.
Talking about bad things.
Yeah.
So why do you think that? I guess my question is, why do we have an obligation to take the Syrians? I mean, we're not actively involved in that at all. I could see the EU having some responsibility, but don't you think mainly it's the Middle Eastern countries there that have the responsibility to take these refugees?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's one or the other. I certainly think that the other country, the more stabilized countries in the Middle East, have a significant role to play and should be doing more. I mean, these are folks that come from similar traditions that are more closely affiliated with one another. I don't think that that's a very controversial piece of the solution, but I mean, we've done more to destabilize that region in the last 15 years than to stabilize it. I think the United States does bear some responsibility. If we talk about how we owe a responsibility to the Iraqi people for helping rebuild that country, and for Afghanistan for helping rebuild that country, I think that some of the fallout from some of these other Muslim majority countries where they've had upheaval and civil war or terrorism or whatever are directly related to our involvement in that part of the world for a long, long time. And so I just, like I said, I'm conflicted because I certainly don't think we should be more bogged down in the Middle East than we have been. But gosh, it doesn't matter what kinds of people are running away. Save the folks that are using this refugee crisis as an excuse to get in a Western country to do some damage. But don't you feel if we're going to call, I've said this before, if we're going to call ourselves the moral leader of the world, shouldn't we step up and do the moral thing, which is help folks who are in need?
Well, yeah, but President Obama's stated goal has been to withdraw.
Disengage from the Middle East. Yeah, I know.
Disengage.
I know.
So shouldn't we let the Middle East sort out their own problems?
Like I said, I'm conflicted because I think that that's sort of what they're doing, but the fallout, and you pointed it out, this always happens with war, and countries always step up, and I don't feel like anybody's really stepped up.
Well, now my question from earlier, how many Middle Eastern countries do you think have taken refugees?
It's not very many. I mean, Turkey closed the border, right? Didn't they? I don't know. They
close it, then reopen it, close it, and reopen it. They have a vetting process, which is one of the things, here's what the problem is. How do you vet all these people? It's difficult to vet, these people, especially coming from Syria to here. And that's part of the problem that the Serbians have had, the Hungarians have had, the Greeks have had. I mean, the Greeks are in crisis themselves with this social system set up that's bankrupting the country, and now you're going to take on an extra 800,000, 1 million people. I mean, for crying out loud, how many people are going to make it so you can't take as many? One of the things that Germany last week said, we're going to take 800,000, and so is the rest of the EU. You're all going to do your part. Well, things are different in Germany. Their population is starting to fall because they don't have produced enough kids. So in order to keep their economy going, they have to have more people, and they have a giant gap. They have a reverse baby boom coming up real quick. So in order to fill their gap, if they take 800,000 Muslims, that would be perfect and could allow the country to grow. So it's good for them. But in Greece, they have an overpopulation. And so when they're talking about taking people in, it's no good.
Well, the geography for Syria is just so tough because they can't go east because that's Iraq. They can't go south because that's Jordan. Jordan has its own problems, although I think maybe Jordan could do a little bit more than they've been doing. Because I think doesn't Jordan have some terrorist folks creating some instability, or am I thinking about something else?
No, well, everybody over there has some terrorist folks creating instability, including Egypt, Libya.
Right. Then you have Lebanon. You have Lebanon and Israel. Israel is not on the border with Syria, but you have Lebanon. They absolutely are not going to go to Lebanon. Hezbollah would put a stop to that.
Yes.
And so the only other option is what they've been trying to do, which is, island hop from Cyprus to the other Mediterranean islands through the Mediterranean to get to Greece. And it's dangerous, man.
Well, and amen. But, the thing is for the reports I've heard, and these are unconfirmed, up to $100,000 to take a family to Europe on one of these slave boats. This is basically what it is. You're leaving behind. You're getting enslaved because you're paying $100,000. You don't even know where you're going to go, and that's part of the problem. The other thing is, here's the backstory on that little kid that got killed, and this is awful. Apparently, the two refugee ships collided, and the kid fell over.
Right, his brother died too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his older brother. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that. That's terrible. That's a terrible thing. Anyway, and this is from the LA Times, so take it for what it's worth. There are 250,000 refugees in Iraq. That should tell you exactly how bad it is in Syria if you're trying to run to Iraq, right? Number two, people that are taking the most refugees are Turkey. They're at 1.9 million.
Yep.
Jordan, we were talking about that. They're at 629,000.
They're already, and then they're busting at the seams. There's not much more they can do.
Now here's the other thing, and this is gonna disagree with what you just said. Lebanon has 1.1 million.
They've gone to Lebanon?
Yeah. They're going because they're just overrunning. They're just overrunning everything. And then you have Egypt. And part of this is unlike most civil wars, these people don't have a place to run. Because if they run to ISIS, they get killed, and if they run to Syria, they're considered traitors and killed anyway.
So is the central thesis of the argument that the Middle East isn't doing enough, is that kind of disproven by those numbers?
Well, I don't think it is. I don't think it's disproven, but I think that it puts paid. Is that the right?
Or is a suggestion that the Middle East has done what it can do and it can't do anymore?
Well, but there's a ton of other countries over there that could take people in. You have Iran that could take people in. There's Libya, Morocco. You got all kinds of space over there. These people are flush with cash. Qatar, you can take. Kuwait, they could take. And there's only 3 countries so far that have taken people in. Sweden is one of them. Germany is another. And Serbia has taken in 50,000. And for a tiny country like that is enormous. We'll be back right after this break. I talked to a Serbian refugee of Muslim descent. I think it was last Friday. And she had some very interesting things to say. So we're going to be back. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to continue the refugee talk because we still haven't come up with a solution. And, you can't get 2 duller minds working on this than me and Blake. So we'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.